Hello friends! Welcome to my channel. Today, I have an incredible story full of emotions, lessons, and a surprising ending. You may have heard the Ugly Duckling before, but today, I'm going to tell you an extended version with even more details and adventure. So sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy this wonderful tale. Let's begin. In a beautiful meadow, surrounded by tall, green trees, there was a small and peaceful lake. The sun shone gently over its crystal-clear waters, and on the shore, hidden among the reeds, lay a large, well-built nest. It was the home of a loving mother duck who was patiently waiting for her eggs to hatch. Every day, she looked at them with tenderness, making sure they were warm and safe from the wind and rain. The other birds of the lake would visit her and say, "Your eggs look so big and strong. You will soon be a proud mother." The mother duck smiled with excitement, imagining the moment when her little ones would come into the world. And one day it finally happened. The eggs began to move, tiny cracks appearing on their shells. With great joy, the mother duck watched as, one by one, her ducklings broke free, peeping cheerfully. They were fluffy, covered in golden yellow feathers, and their bright little eyes were full of curiosity. However, one egg remained unhatched. It was the largest of them all and had a slightly different color. The mother duck grew worried, but decided to wait a little longer. After a long while, the shell finally cracked, and out came a very different duckling. He was not yellow and fluffy like his siblings. Instead, his feathers were gray, his body slightly larger, and his movements clumsy. At first, the mother duck looked at him with surprise, but she loved him just the same. However, when she took her ducklings to the barnyard, where the other animals lived, the teasing began immediately. "Look at that duckling," said a hen. "How strange and ugly he looks. I have never seen such an awkward-looking duck before," added an old goose. The other ducklings, influenced by the comments of the animals, began to distance themselves from their brother. They pushed him away when he tried to play, laughed at him, and never let him eat with them. "You are so ugly," they said. "You don't belong with us." At first, the little duckling tried to ignore the insults and prove that he could be just as good as the others, but each day, he felt lonelier and sadder. Even his own mother, although she didn't want to admit it, sometimes sighed with worry when she looked at him. Finally, after many days of rejection, the duckling made a decision. He would leave. One night, while everyone was asleep, he silently left the barnyard and started walking without direction. The duckling wandered for days through the forest, facing challenges at every turn. He hid from foxes, avoided hungry dogs, and endured the cold and rain. One day, he arrived at a swamp where wild ducks lived. He approached them timidly, hoping they would accept him. "Who are you?" asked one of the wild ducks. "I don't know," the duckling replied sadly. "I only know that nobody wants me." The wild ducks laughed. "Well, you can stay, but don't expect us to be kind to you." The duckling stayed at the swamp for a while, but he always felt lonely. Then, winter arrived, bringing even greater difficulties. The lake began to freeze, food became scarce, and the cold wrapped around him like an icy blanket. One night, exhausted and starving, the duckling collapsed into the snow, thinking it was the end. Luckily, a kind farmer found him and took him home. There, they fed him and gave him a warm place to rest. But the farmer's children were playful and always tried to catch him, pulling at his feathers and chasing him around. Scared, the duckling decided to escape once again. He ran as fast as he could and managed to find a nearly frozen lake, where he spent the rest of the winter hiding among the reeds, barely surviving. When spring finally arrived, the sun began to melt the snow and warm the land. Trees blossomed, and the lake filled with life once more. The duckling, now much larger, felt a strange excitement inside him. His wings seemed stronger, and his reflection in the water looked different. One day, as he walked along the shore of the lake, he saw a group of majestic swans gliding across the water. He had never seen such beautiful birds before. Their white feathers shimmered under the sun, and their graceful posture left him in awe. "How magnificent they are," thought the duckling. "I wish I could be like them, but they will surely reject me like everyone else." Still, he felt the urge to approach them. With fear and hesitation, he slowly slid across the water until he reached where the swans were. To his surprise, instead of chasing him away, the swans looked at him with kindness. One of them swam closer and said, "Welcome. Why are you alone?" The duckling lowered his head and whispered, "Because I am ugly and nobody wants me." The swan smiled and motioned for him to look at his reflection in the water. Hesitantly, the duckling leaned forward, expecting to see his usual clumsy gray self. But instead, a beautiful young swan stared back at him. He couldn't believe it. He touched the water with his beak, moved his wings, and blinked several times. It was him. He had always been a swan, but he had never known. The other swans gathered around him with joy. "You are one of us," they said. "You always have been." For the first time in his life, the duckling, now a swan, felt loved and accepted. He spread his wings and joined them, soaring gracefully over the lake. He was no longer the ugly duckling. He was a beautiful swan, strong and proud. Moral: life can be difficult, and sometimes we feel like we don't belong anywhere. But time teaches us that everyone has their own worth and beauty. It doesn't matter how things start. What truly matters is who we become. And so, the duckling who was once rejected found his true home and lived happily ever after. And that's the end of The Ugly Duckling, a story that teaches us that it doesn't matter how we start. What truly matters is who we become over time. We all have our own value and beauty, even if it takes us a while to discover it. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more stories like this. Also, let me know in the comments which story you'd like to hear next. Thank you for joining me for this tale. See you in the next video. Bye for now.